2025. The power of ESOPs in 2025. How employees become owners. Full ESOP guide we are going to discuss. Imagine waking up one day not just as an employee but as an owner of the company you work for. For years, you have put in your hard work, your passion, and your dedication. But what if your company rewarded you with more than just a paycheck? What if you could own a piece of the business, share in its success, and build real wealth? Welcome to the world of ESOPs, employee stock options, where your work doesn't just pay off, it compounds into something bigger. In this video, we will break down everything you need to know about ESOPs in 2025, how they work, how they can build your wealth, and most importantly, how you can take advantage of them. Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Let's dive in. What is an ESOP? Employee stock option is a program that grants employees the right to purchase company shares at a predetermined price, often below market value. How do ESOPs work? When ESOPs are granted, employees receive the right, not an obligation, it is a right to purchase company shares at the predetermined price, known as the exercise price, after completing a specific period called vesting period. If the company's share price rises, a profit can be made by selling the shares at the higher market value. This is an advantage. There are 3 steps. Step number 1, grant of employee stock options. Stock options are awarded, giving employees the right to buy company shares at a fixed price at a future date. That fixed price is called the exercise price. Step number 1 is a granting stage. Step number 2 is vesting. Vesting period, a specified waiting period, that is called a vesting period, must be completed before the options become eligible for exercise. So mandatory vesting period is a 1 year. Second step is vesting. First step I told you, granting. Second step, vesting. Third step, exercise. Once the vesting period is over, shares can be purchased at a predetermined price. These 3 are the steps involved: granting stage, vesting stage, and exercise. What are the objectives of the employee stock option scheme? They motivate employees to contribute to company growth, create a sense of ownership and participation, align employees' interest with long-term shareholder value, retain and reward a key talent. Who are eligible to participate in the scheme and who are not eligible to participate in the scheme, we will discuss. Employees of the company, including directors, whether executive, non-executive, but not an independent directors, and employees of subsidiary holding associate company are eligible. But promoters and employee who is a promoter or promoter group, or a person belonging to the promoter group, or a director who either himself or through his relative or through any body corporate directly or indirectly holds more than 10% of outstanding equity shares of the company are not eligible, because promoters are already motivated. No need of giving again ESOPs for motivation. Promoters already retaining the company, though there is no need to again to retain them because they are the promoters. So promoters, independent directors, and employees, promoter group not eligible for ESOPs. And even director, whether directly, indirectly holds more than 10% of outstanding equity shares of the company, not eligible for ESOPs. These are all not eligible, but who are eligible? Yes, employees of the company, including executive, non-executive, even subsidiaries holding associate companies. They are all eligible, whether they work in India or outside India. They are eligible for ESOPs, except I told you, who are not eligible. Then, can ESOPs be granted to employees of subsidiary company? Answer is yes. Companies can extend ESOPs to its employees of their subsidiaries, subject to approval of the members. What is the vesting period in employee stock options? The vesting period is the duration an employee must remain with the company before becoming eligible to exercise stock options, purchase shares. So the minimum waiting period, minimum vesting period as per the law, mandatory, is 1 year. Who administers the scheme? Scheme is administered by compensation committee. That is, most of the cases, nomination remuneration committee will administer. Nomination remuneration committee, NRC. NRC will be appointed as a compensation committee. And if trust is there, then employees welfare trust established for this purpose. So who administers? Either NRC or employee welfare trust. Are SEBI regulations applicable for ESOPs or only Companies Act? If it is a listed company, yes, along with Companies Act 2013 and rules, SEBI regulations are applicable. Listed companies must comply with SEBI share-based employee benefit and sweat equity regulations 2021. What happens if grantee, that is employee, leave the company before options vest in the event of cessation of employment due to resignation or termination? Then what about ESOPs? So there are two possibilities: vested options, unvested options. All unvested options on the date of the session, on the date of resignation or date of termination, shall expire. So during that waiting period, all unvested options on the date of cessation shall expire and stand terminated with effect from the date unless otherwise determined by nomination remuneration committee, whose decision will be the final and binding. This is what unvested options. What about vested options? Subject to the terms and conditions formulated by the nomination remuneration committee in accordance with the share-based employee benefit and sweat equity regulations and scheme, all vested options. Now we are talking about vested options as on the date of resignation, termination. The vested options shall be exercisable by the grantee, by the employee, by last date of employment in organization, or before expiry of exercise period, whichever is earlier. So the vested options or any other benefit not so exercised shall lapse irrevocably, and the rights thereunder shall be extinguished if he is not exercising, subject to the terms and conditions formulated by the committee in accordance with the regulations. All vested options as on the date means date of resignation or termination shall be exercisable by the grantee by the last day of employment in the organization or before expiry of the exercise period, whichever is the earlier. What is exercise? Exercise means not that exercise. Exercise means making an application by an employee to the company. So the grantee, the employee will put an application, make an application to the company. Here company means committee or a trust for issue of shares or appreciation in the form of cash, as the case may be, against the vested options in pursuance of the scheme covered under the scheme. Once ESOPs are vested, then the employee has to make an application to the trust or committee for exercising. What is the exercise price? Exercise price means the price payable by an employee by grantee for exercising the option granted in pursuance of the scheme. Once the shares are vested, he will make an application to the trust. That time he will pay the money. That is called the exercise price. This price is already predetermined when options are granted. When employee received a granting letter, that time only this price is predetermined. Obviously, it is lower than the current market price of the shares. What is the exercise period? Exercise period is a waiting period. Waiting period is a vesting period. After vesting, waiting period, which we told is the vesting period. After receive, it is like this. Once first he will receive the grant, employee will receive grant letter. After that, he has to wait for some time. That is called vesting period. After vesting, again some period will be given for exercise, within which employee has to exercise. Exercise period means the time period after vesting within which an employee can exercise right to apply for shares against the vested options in pursuance of the scheme. For example, 1 year is the vesting period. So after receiving a grant letter, employee has to wait for 1 year. After 1 year, he has to make an application for exercising his shares. So that period, exercise period, company will give 2 months or 3 months or 2 years, depends company to company. During that period, he has to exercise his options. Generally, the exercise periods will be maximum 2 years from the date of the last vesting. This is in practice. However, nomination remuneration committee will decide, or in the scheme itself, it will be decided the exercise period. Failure to comply within this time period after accepting the same shall result in lapsing of vested options in the hands of the grantee. Suppose grantee has not made an application during the exercise period, he has forgotten, then he has to, his shares, his ESOPs will be lapsed. So how can employee exercise their options? Exercising options, two routes. One is cash route, one is cashless route. Cash route is paying the exercise price. Some predetermined price will be there. You pay that price, receive the shares. Pay the price to the trust, receive the shares. This is called cash route. You are paying cash and getting shares. Cashless route, you are not paying cash. So that means employee doesn't have a cash. So you make a request to the trust, request to the compensation committee, sell my shares, deduct my tax, and repay the balance amount. This is called cashless route. You are not paying any cash. Cashless route, selling the shares immediately after exercising and receiving the net proceeds. Can ESOPs be exercised in installments? Yes, companies may allow employees to exercise options in parts over a period. During the period of that exercise period, because that period will be there, no, up to 2 years, depends on company to company. So during that period, employees may allow to exercise options in parts, in installments. It depends. Can grantees sell ESOP shares immediately after they vest? Immediately after they vest? Yes. Grantee can sell the shares on the open market once they are vested, unless there is a lock-in condition as per the grant letter. If there is a lock-in condition, he has to wait. If there is no lock-in condition, he can sell. Whether lock-in is mandatory, no. It is depends on the company to company. But under the law, it is not mandatory. What is lock-in period? What is this lock-in period? It is a period after exercise. Employee cannot sell the shares. He has to wait for lock-in period. That is called lock-in period. How do grantees sell ESOP shares? How to sell ESOP shares? Employee can sell them in the stock market if the company is listed, or through buyback or private transaction if unlisted. These are the ways to sell ESOP shares. Do ESOPs dilute existing shareholders' equity? Of course, yes. Because issuing new shares in the company under employee stock options increase the total shares in the company, so which reducing the percentage of holding existing shareholders. How are ESOPs taxed in India? This is important. Taxation. There are two stages. Point number 1 and point number 2. Point number 1 is at the time of exercise. The difference between the market price of the shares as on the day of exercise and the exercise price will be added to the perquisite under salary in the month of exercise. So the grantee will be liable to pay taxes at the individual slab rate in which he falls. I will explain again. The price is predetermined, so you are paying some amount. That day, what is the market price? The difference, that is the benefit. That will be added to your salary. Then it is treated as a perquisite and taxes applicable as per the individual slab rate. Suppose if you are in 30%, 30%, if you are in 20% slab, so it depends on the grantee. Grantee will be liable to pay taxes at the individual slab rate in which he falls. The payment of perquisite tax in respect of exercise of options shall be made by the employee to the company, or the company shall have a right to recover tax from the grantee. Grantee may say, no, I don't pay. Company shall recover. Point number 2, I told you, no, 2 stages tax will be there. At the time of exercise, now you are becoming owner of the shares. So the difference amount is liable to tax. It will be treated as a perquisite. Another stage is, yes, you are the owner of the shares. When you are selling the shares, you sell, then and there you sell, for you will wait for 1 year or 2 years. That is a grantee choice. At the time of sale of shares of the company by grantee, on selling the shares, the concerned employee would be liable to income tax as per the applicable provisions of the laws. Because it depends on how much time you are keeping the shares and how much money you are earning. So, as per the applicable provisions of the laws, at the time of sale of shares, this is capital gain tax. First time perquisite tax, second time capital gain tax will be there. How is ESOP tax calculated? The taxable amount is the difference between fair market value on the exercise date and exercise price. Taxable amount is the difference between the fair market value on the exercise date and exercise price. What is FME in ESOP taxation? Fair market value is the stock price determined on the exercise date, which is used for tax calculation. What are the tax benefits of ESOPs for companies? Companies can claim as a tax deduction for the cost of issuing ESOPs as an employee compensation. This is employee compensation. Or ESOPs are transferable. ESOPs are not transferable except under certain conditions like death, depending on the scheme. Once the employee receives grant letter, he shall not transfer to anyone. These are non-transferable. ESOPs holder get dividends. Do ESOPs holder get dividends? I told you not transferable, and you cannot get dividend also. Employees do not receive dividend, but when they will get, until they exercise their options and become the shareholder. Once the guarantee exercise options, he will become the owner of the shares. Then you can transfer. Also get dividends. Once company declare dividends, yes, shareholders also will get declared dividend. He will get the dividend. How can an employee will benefit from ESOPs? This is very, very important. Employee can benefit from ESOPs if the company performs well and the share price increases. Then there are three types of benefits. One benefit, financial gain. Second benefit, your ownership rights. Third benefit, retention. Financial gain, if the company grows and its stock price rises, employee can sell the shares for profit. So he is getting more money. And ownership, employee will feel that he is a owner. Employee will have a stake in the company and he can participate in growth. He will get all shareholders' rights. Retention, since options typically vest over time. These ESOPs encourage employee to stay with the company longer. Can employee exercise ESOPs at any time? No. Employee can only exercise ESOPs once they have vested, and after that usually have a limited time to exercise as per the exercise period. If not exercised within the specified period, ESOPs will expire. So grantee should not feel that still he is a owner, still he is holding ESOPs. No. You should exercise during the exercise period. If you are silent during the exercise period, your ESOPs will lapse, ESOPs will expire. So employee can only exercise ESOPs once they have vested, and after that usually have a limited time to exercise. If not exercised within that specified period, ESOPs will expire. What happens if stock price falls? If stock price falls below the exercise period, below the predetermined price, ESOPs may not have much value. We have already told this is a right, not an obligation. In such case, when price is low, market price is low, your exercise price is high, then exercising option might not make any financial sense. Employees may choose not to exercise their options if it is not financially beneficial. If it is beneficial only, employee will sell the ESOPs. Can foreign employee be granted ESOPs? Yes, companies can grant ESOPs to foreign employees also. He should fall in the definition of employee, but taxation and regulatory compliances may vary. How do unlisted companies handle ESOP liquidity? Because listed company, we said anytime he can sell the shares once he exercise. No? Then what about unlisted company? Unlisted companies may offer buybacks, secondary sales, or liquidity events like IPOs for employees to cash out their ESOPs. What happens in case of corporate action like mergers, acquisition, amalgamation, reorganization, restructuring, or IPOs? Then in that situation, what about these grants? What about these ESOPs? Question comes no? The company will adjust the number of options and exercise price to ensure fairness. The vesting schedule remains unchanged as far as possible. Employees' benefits will not be affected. Company will adjust accordingly. Can the scheme be modified? Employee stock option scheme be modified? Yes. The company reserves the right to amend, alter, or revoke the scheme, but subject to shareholder approval. Subject to shareholder approval. What are the risks involved with the ESOPs? Yes, market risk, job dependency. Market risk is if the company stock price falls, the value of your ESOPs may decrease or even become worthless. Job dependency. ESOPs often encourage you to stay with the company. So if you leave before vesting, you may lose your option. So you have to stay with the company. This is also another risk. What happens in case of employees' death or permanent disability? Yes, death, all granted options vest immediately and can be exercised by legal heirs or nominees within the time period as mentioned in the grant letter. What about permanent disability? All granted options vest immediately and must be exercised within the time period as mentioned in the grant letter. So once there is a death or there is a permanent disability of the grantee, no need to again wait. Immediately, all granted options vest immediately. After vesting, yes, can be exercised. What are the disclosure requirements for ESOPs? Companies must disclose ESOP details in their financial statements and stock exchanges if it is a listed companies. Can ESOPs be repriced? I just told you if market price falls, then employees will not purchase, obviously. So companies can reprice the ESOPs if stock price falls significantly, but subject to shareholders' approval. What is the impact of ESOPs on financial statements? ESOPs costs are recorded as employee compensation expense. When expenses, you book the expenses affecting the profits of the company. Can startups issue ESOPs? Yes, startups use ESOPs to attract and retain talent while conserving cash. What is the buyback of ESOPs? Some companies offer employees the option to sell their ESOP shares back to the company, providing liquidity. Companies may repurchase ESOP shares from employees at a predetermined price, providing liquidity before a public listing. Can an employee negotiate ESOP terms? These are all practical questions. Generally, ESOP terms are predetermined, but senior executives may negotiate specific conditions as part of their employment contract. What is the difference between ESOP and sweat equity shares? We are more focusing on ESOP in this video, but little. Some might be having a doubt. ESOPs are granted to employees as an incentive, while sweat equity shares are issued for contributions such expertise or intellectual property. What are phantom ESOPs? This is not there in the SEBI regulation or Companies Act, but in practice, in tradition, you might have heard or you might be come acrossing or you will come across this word. So you should know. You should not feel that I have not explained what is phantom ESOPs. Phantom ESOPs do not grant actual shares, but provide cash benefits equivalent to stock price appreciation. The term phantom ESOP is not explicitly mentioned in Indian laws and the Companies Act 2013 and the Securities Exchange Board of India SEBI regulations primarily address traditional employee stock options ESOPs that involve actual equity transactions. So if you take Companies Act or if you take SEBI regulations, that actually involves actual equity transactions. Whereas phantom stock options, also known as stock appreciation rights, we have stock appreciation rights in SEBI regulations SARS, or cash settled plans linked to the company's stock value but not involve the issuance or transfer of actual shares. I'll repeat it again. Phantom stock options, also known as stock appreciation rights, These are cash settled plans linked to company's stock value but do not involve the issuance or transfer of actual shares. Cash settled plans, phantom stock options. In 2015, SEBI provided informal guidance indicating that employee benefit schemes involving cash payments linked to company securities without actual dealing in securities are not regulated under existing SEBI regulations. This position was reiterated in SEBI share-based employee benefit and sweat equity regulations 2021, which clarified that cash settled schemes like phantom stock options do not fall within their purview. But you are all should know, because this word is used in the industry. Therefore, while phantom stock options are utilized in India, they operate in a regulatory gray area due to absence of specific legal provisions addressing them. Now you are clear what is phantom. What is phantom ESOP? Now, can ESOP be cancelled? Yes, but in certain situations, companies can cancel ESOPs if the employee leave before vesting or due to non-performance or subject to ESOP scheme. What is cliff period in ESOPs? This word also you should aware. Cliff period is the minimum time employees must stay with the company before their options start vesting. Now, as per the law, mandatory vesting period is 1 year. The term cliff period is not explicitly mentioned in Indian laws. However, the concept is used in the industry. This is implicitly addressed through regulatory requirements. Specifically, the Companies Act 2013 mandates a minimum 1 year period between the grant options and their vesting. This requirement effectively establishes 1 year cliff period before employees can exercise their stock option. Mandatory waiting period 1 year. The mandatory 1 year gap ensures that employees must complete at least 1 year of service before any of their stock options vest, aligning with the traditional definition of cliff period. So while the law does not use the term cliff period, the enforced 1 year minimum vesting period serves the same purpose. Therefore, even though the phrase cliff period is not explicitly found in the legislation, the concept is inherently incorporated through the statutory requirement of a minimum 1 year vesting period for employee stock options. Can ESOPs be part of severance package? These are all not there in the act or regulations. These are all interpretations and practical issues. Can ESOPs be part of severance package? Yes. Some companies offer accelerated vesting or extended exercise periods as part of the severance benefits. What is the severance package? Severance benefits. I'll explain. Severance package is the compensation and benefits that an employer provides to an employee when their employment is terminated. It is usually offered when an employee is laid off, dismissed due to downsizing, or leaves the company under mutual agreement. What are the components in the severance package? Severance pay, notice period, unused leave encashment, stock options treatment, medical and insurance benefit, outplacement service, non-compete or confidentiality clauses. These are the components. Generally, it will be there in severance package. Because the word has come, I am elaborating. Severance pay is a lump sum, a lump sum or periodic payment based on the employee's tenure and the salary. What is the notice period pay? Compensation for notice period if the employee waives is not giving notice period employer, then he will give some options. Unused leave encashment, then payment for unused paid leave in the form of this severance package will be given. Stock options treatment. Some companies allow accelerated vesting or extended exercise periods. Medical and insurance benefits, continuation of health insurance for a certain period. Outplacement services, assistance with job search, career counseling or training. Once laid off, no, so then immediately employment, so company will help in job search to the employees. So non-compete or confidential clauses, some agreements include restrictions on joining components, joining competitors. See, these are all components of severance package. Just I sort of explaining the severance package, that is why it is explained. Legal considerations in India, there is no mandatory severance pay except under the Industrial Dispute Act 1947 for workmen, which requires compensation equivalent to 15 days salary for completed 1 year of service. There you will come across this one. Corporate employees may receive severance based on the contractual agreements, company policy or negotiations. So how do ESOPs impact on IPO? In IPOs, vested ESOPs may become liquid. Employees to sell their shares in the public market. What happens to ESOPs in case of company liquidation? So you may get doubt even in IBC, if company goes bankrupt or liquidated, ESOPs usually become worthless as equity holders are lost in the repayment hierarchy. They will stood last, equity shareholders. What is the difference between ESOPs and RSUs? RSUs called restricted stock unit. This word you come across in the industry. ESOPs require employees to purchase shares at an exercise price. I already told employee stock options require employee to purchase shares at an exercise price. Company is not giving free. You are paying some minimum amount. Whereas restricted stock units are granted outright. After vesting period, you are no need to pay any amount. Restricted stock unit is a form of employee compensation where the company grants shares to employees, but they come with certain restrictions. Employees receive these shares only after vesting period and meeting specific conditions, such as performance goals or tenure with the company, but not paying money. How RSUs work? RSUs are restricted stock units. There are grant date, vesting period, restrictions, and settlement. How it works? Grant date, the company awards RSUs to employees as a part of their compensation. Vesting period, employees must wait for a specific period, example like 3 years or 4 years, before RSUs are converted into actual shares. After that waiting period, this will be converted into shares. No need to pay the amount, then you can sell the shares. Restrictions, employees cannot sell or transfer RSUs until they vest. They have to wait for waiting period, that is vesting period. Settlement, once RSUs are vested, they are converted into company stock, which the employees can hold or sold. They can sell or they can hold. Some companies also offer cash equivalents instead of actual shares. The difference is here employee is not paying any amount, whereas in ESOPs, employee will pay the amount. Key features RSUs, no upfront cost. Unlike ESOPs, employee don't need to buy shares. They receive them for free upon vesting. This is good. Performance-based vesting. Some RSUs require employees to meet specific performance gains. Nothing will come free. Liquidity. RSUs become valuable once vested. But if the company is unlisted, employees may have limited option to sell. I'll explain you the differences between RSU versus ESOPs. Restricted stock units versus employee stock options. Cost to the employee, RSUs no cost, getting free. Shares are given upon vesting. Whereas employee stock options, employee must pay an exercise price to buy shares. That is the difference. Vesting, time-based, performance-based, both. Time-based to performance-based. It is linked in both RSUs and ESOPs. Taxation aspect. RSUs taxed as a salary income at vesting and capital gain at sale. In ESOPs, taxed at exercise And capital gains at same, almost same both. Ownership, employees get shares upon vesting in RSUs, whereas in ESOPs, upon vesting they will not become employee, must exercise the options to get shares. This is the difference with the ESOPs. Taxation aspect, taxation of RSUs in India. At vesting, RSUs are taxed as a salary income based on the market value of the shares. RSUs at vesting stage, RSUs are taxed as a salary income based on the market value of the shares. And at the time of sale of those shares, employees sell the shares. Capital gain tax applies based on their holding. Why companies offer RSUs? Retain employees with long-term incentives, align employee interest with the company growth, provide compensation without affecting cash flow. Why the companies offer RSUs? These are the advantages. What role does trust play in ESOPs? Some companies set up an ESOP trust to hold shares on behalf of employees and manage stock transactions. These schemes entire will be managed by the trust. If there is a secondary acquisition, if there is any gift, then trust route is a mandatory. And it is a convenient also. Can ESOPs be granted retrospectively? No. ESOPs cannot be backdated. What is the impact of stock split on ESOPs? Suppose there is any stock split. Then in a stock split, ESOPs are adjusted proportionately to maintain the same total value for the employees. Employee benefit will not be affected. Value of the ESOPs will not be affected. Accordingly, adjustment will be done. Are ESOPs better than cash bonuses? ESOPs offer long-term wealth creation potential that you should see. Whereas cash bonus provide immediate financial benefit. The choice depends on employees' financial goals. But ultimately, this depends on the employee's financial goal. Whether he need money or he need wealth, long-term wealth creation. How are disputes under ESOPs scheme resolved? Finally, yes, we have to discuss disputes also. Wherever there is a money, wherever there is a benefit, of course, dispute also. Any disputes arising from the scheme or settled through arbitration, any disputes arising from schemes are settled through arbitration in accordance with the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996. Now that you know how ESOPs can turn you from an employee into a owner, once you are getting a ESOPs, this is a long-term wealth creation. You are becoming a partner, you are becoming a shareholder, you are becoming a owner. Now that you know how ESOPs can turn you from an employee into owner, this is a journey. The next step is yours. Remember, wealth isn't just about what you earn, it is about what you own. See you in the next video. Are you ready to make the most of your ESOPs? Or do you still have any question? Drop them in the comment below. I will personally reply to help you out. And don't forget to subscribe the channel. We have two channels, RR Corporates, RR Legal Talks. And turn on the notification bell so you never miss any update on financial freedom, ESOP strategies, and wealth building tips. Thank you.